Hey guys, hello and welcome to another installment of Vince and Films. My name is Vincent and I'm still living in Paris where I'm trying to break the record of most films seen in a cinema in 1 year. Today is the first video of this new year 2018 and unlike what people thought, this is not the end. I'm not done because I started March 23rd with this record, thus I still have until March 22nd in order to try to break the record of most films seen in a cinema in 1 year. Now, we are day 294, the end of week 42, I think, and I'm now, and that I'm sure of, at film number 597. Now, since I haven't made a video in the last 2-3 weeks, I'm going to tell you real quick two films that I thought were very notable throughout the last weeks, which were All the Money in the World, which was great, Molly's Game, which was phenomenal, especially for a first-time directing film by Aaron Sorkin, who also wrote the film, and he's a great script writer, and Jessica Chastain is fabulous. But also Wonder. Now, the funny thing about All the Money of the World is, just full disclosure, even though I saw almost 600 films in theaters in 294 days, I managed to watch Star Wars: The Last Jedi 4 times. Overall, I saw it twice in Paris, once in the south of France over the Christmas holiday with my parents, and once with one of my best friends in Germany. And Germany was funny because I saw it in English without subtitles, but beyond that, the fact of the matter is that in Germany, films come out later than they come out in France. In France, usually they come out about the same time than they do in the United States, but in Germany it's always weeks later. And so when I went to Germany to see Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I saw trailers for All the Money in the World that I had already seen in Paris, and I don't know if you are aware of this, but initially this film was supposed to have Kevin Spacey playing the grandfather. And when the Weinstein affair blew up and some actors were involved or were also sexual harasser, like Kevin Spacey, who was one of the guys that came out and said, I'm gay and I did all these things and I'm sorry, and so his career now is over. He was fired from Netflix, and what happened was that 2 months before the film All the Money in the World came out, they decided, Ridley Scott and the production team decided to reshoot all the scenes with Kevin Spacey and replace him by Christopher Plummer. So 2 months before the film came out, they reshot everything, and when I saw it in December, you didn't notice a thing. It was Christopher Plummer, as if he had always been supposed to play this role. And then I went to Germany, and the thing is that in the trailer that came in theaters after the film had already come out in the United States and in Paris, France, the trailer had Kevin Spacey and said with Kevin Spacey as Getty, and that was a fun story, a fun fact, just unbelievable. Anyway, Star Wars was great, I think. But last week, the film that I remember most was, or is, The Darkest Hour. The Darkest Hours? Darkest Hours, it's called, by Joe Wright, with Gary Oldman playing Churchill. Now, before I get into the film, I have to mention that I saw some articles. I'm not an expert of that era, so I suppose I've seen several articles stating that, so I suppose that most of it is true, is that historically speaking, this film is not completely accurate. There are certain, or maybe a lot of liberties that are taken with the characters, not necessarily with the course of the whole story, of course, because Second World War, they didn't pull Inglourious Bastards where they changed everything at the ending, nothing like that. But there are certain liberties, and there's a great emotional scene in the last quarter that is just gripping, that for instance didn't take place, and so there's always the debate of whether it is okay to make a biopic or a film based on true events and then romanticize it. Usually I'm more for films being historically accurate, but in this instance, this film was so gripping and engaging and just emotionally charged. I was stuck in my seat and just watching this film with a lot of intensity that in the end I don't care about this because the film was just great. And the truth about the story is that whatever was romanticized in the film actually still happened overall in history. So I excuse the romanticization. Anyway, the film is great, and the thing that added to the experience was the fact that I was in a theater with a lot of people, and I felt how the whole theater was electrified and just silent, and so you could hear everything. And there are several moments, several minutes, several tens of minutes throughout the film where you could hear how people were just responding emotionally to what was happening on screen, what they know happened in history, and how involved they were with the character of Churchill who fought. Because the story is not necessarily about the World War itself. It is about Churchill being elected in 1940, being not elected but being nominated by the king in order to be prime minister, knowing that he doesn't have the support of the king, he doesn't have the support of his own majority party. He's elected, he's nominated solely because that's the only one that the opposition, who is now governing with the majority for the war, during the war, would have accepted as a prime minister. And at the same time, he was the only one who strictly did not want to negotiate with Hitler and negotiate any peace, because at that time it would have been a possibility. And so it's about him taking on the role of prime minister, knowing that he has to fight against everyone, and he's the only one who is strictly abiding by his principle not to negotiate with such a madman. And so he has to, counter the king, counter his majority leaders, counter the people that are on his war council. And so it's just this story that takes place in about a few weeks time, and it's a great film. Give Gary Oldman the Oscar for Best Actor. Give the writer an Oscar for Best Screenplay. And go watch the film. That's all I can say. So that's that for this week. Thanks for watching. I'll be seeing you next week after you've watched Darkest Hour. Till then, salut.